We're Robin and Steve. We're at Scarborough Marina and we've just swapped boats. And we're really looking forward to sailing our new boat, Sirena, to clearer waters. In this episode, we complete the swap by finding Rakali a lovely new owner before both boats sail away. We left off when we were high and not very dry at the top of a ladder. And we still have some work to do before going back in the water. Between storms, we did 2 coats of anti-fouling. But there's more to do, always, like wiring in our new solar panels. Once the wires are connected, Steve uses a heat gun to shrink the rubber tubing around the wires. Everything has to be stronger at sea, so all of this is marine grade. We printed out new labels to update some of the switches in our switch box. Some of these switches were not switching on what they said they would. While our boat's high and dry, it's a good chance to reseal the through holes to ensure that the sea stays on the outside of the boat. Then it was time for Sirena to return to the sea and for us to learn how to sail this thing. But there was still some fixing to do. We had solar power, but not wind power. The wind generator that came with the boat had perished. This was the same kind we had on Rakali, and it worked well. Although wired up, the solar panels had to be made more seaworthy. Fuel filters needed changing, and the fuel had to be bled. And we were still learning what pipe led to where, under which floorboard. We took note of which things had corroded. Gearbox oil needed replacing. It's a potentially messy job, but we did it drip-free. Engine sounds all right. We thought we'd better service the winches. This one had a nest in it. This boat has a lot of winches, so I got some much needed practice in how to service winches. Now they're all clean and well lubricated. Next mission, the water maker. We weren't going to make water with this disgusting filter. While this boat had been stuck at the marina, some swallows had built some cosy nests inside our mainsail, so we were home wreckers. Time to take Sirena on a test sail. Our very first sail from Scarborough to Moreton Island was a little bit alarming at first, as we had to cut through a sailing race. But once underway, we had time to test things out. Like the wind vane, we can set the paddle at an angle to the wind, which is geared to turn the wind vane's rudder, which in turn steers the boat. We were going quite fast, so it was time to deploy the duogen. Our movement through the water turns the propeller, which generates energy. Being a test run, we weren't determined to get ashore to Moreton Island. We just wanted to get a feel of how the boat lay in the water. We plan to return in the future and explore these sand dunes. So far, our test trip was going well. It was time to return and find Rakali a new owner. My heart felt heavy at the prospect of saying goodbye to our boat. And also due to the amount of litter brought about by the pandemic. All this time we'd been walking past Rakali to get to Sirena. It felt very strange. But luckily, Rakali and Russell have found each other. And we did end up having one last sail on Rakali so that we could show Russell the ropes. Quite literally. Every boat is a little bit different, so Russell was very appreciative that he overlapped with us for a lovely morning of sailing. on what was now his boat, Rakali. Russell had been searching for years for the perfect boat, and Rakali was that boat. Happy retirement, Russell. So this was the last time we docked Rakali. With Russell's help, from the engine to the sails to the toilet or head, Russell got a very thorough tour, and I got back in time for my last ukulele lesson with these friends, this time aboard Sirena. It's important to my well-being that I get to practice aerials, and thank goodness we figured out a way to rig silks or rope on Sirena. It was time to sail away. And it was nerve-wracking to leave the marina because we'd noticed that Sirena reverses like a pig. But we made it out. And who should be there sailing beside us? Russell aboard Rakali. The two of them looked majestic out there, making it an absolutely perfect farewell. My heart wasn't heavy anymore, apart from due to the excess litter brought about by the pandemic. Farewell, Rakali. Have fun, Russell. We sailed north into the night and had a moment to miss Rakali when the engine failed at night on our way to Wide Bay Bar. Just to make things worse, there was also a mysterious leak. Steve's midnight detective work deduced that the engine stopped because of a fuel blockage. But Steve got the engine started again, so we did get to sleep a little bit at Double Island Point before entering Wide Bay Bar. I've talked about this zigzaggy bar before, but we had a nice weather window and didn't get too close to those waves on our way into Fraser Island, Gurry. Then finally we could get some rest. Before heading to Tin Can Bay to buy the bits and pieces needed to filter all of our old fuel. We passed this familiar four-wheel drive belching monster. And I got to stretch my legs. I was still working on this dance whenever I could on a sandbar. Tin Can Bay was a relaxing place with a well-stocked chandlery, and we even went to a cafe, rich in chicken decor. Steve had to be lateral-minded with what they had at the chandlery to design a way to cycle and filter our old diesel so that we wouldn't have a fuel blockage at sea again. We let it cycle for quite some time, and it seemed to do the trick. A little bit more mending and we were off. We couldn't not swim at this beach. There are all kinds of interesting animals on the sand flats as the tides go in and out. We were getting used to kayaking back to this beauty. And while aboard, we were still fine-tuning ways to make living aboard more practical. Gary's anchorage. We met this fisherman and a dingo who clearly knew that there were fish scraps on the way. The friendly fisherman had lots of stories to tell us. He'd been fishing all his life, and today he was after mullet. The next day at dawn, we heard a knock on our hull in Sirena. It was the fisherman. He gave us freshly caught and filleted mullet. We're still new at using the sextant. It takes practice. We'd been having problem pulling the anchor chain in. It would kind of bunch up. So here, Steve's trying to do a bit of problem solving, but ended up bird watching. And just watching things in general. We left Gary's anchorage on a rising tide to minimise our chance of getting stuck on one of these moving sandbars. Whoops, we did nudge one. But a wind meant the sails filled and tipped us off the sandbar. At South White Cliffs, we had a feast of mullet. I'd never tried it and it was delicious. The light show wasn't too bad either. Join us next time as we explore more of Fraser Island, Kagari, and continue on to Lady Elliot Island, which was beyond a dream come true. You'll see.